Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the biggest fleet in galactic history showed up at Earth's doorstep. He nearly choked on the hot liquid as his sensors lit up like a Christmas tree. 200 massive ships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Jake set down his coffee cup and leaned forward in his chair aboard the Earth Defense Station Liberty. The station was small compared to what was heading their way, but it was home. He had been stationed here for 3 years, watching for asteroids and space junk. This was definitely not space junk. "Amy, you seeing this?" Jake called to his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Carter. She was staring at her screen with her mouth open. "Sir, I'm reading 200 contacts. They're huge. Each ship is about the size of Manhattan." Amy's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. Jake pulled up the visual feed on his main screen and started laughing. He couldn't help it. The alien ships were enormous, covered in weapons that stuck out in every direction, like a porcupine. They looked like someone had taken a city block and stuck guns all over it without any plan. "What's so funny, sir?" Amy asked, turning in her chair to look at him. Jake pointed at the screen. "Look at those things. They're huge, but look how they move. It takes them forever to turn, and all those weapons are pointing everywhere except forward. It's like they built the biggest, most complicated thing they could think of without asking if it actually worked." The alien fleet was moving slowly toward Earth, their massive ships turning like floating mountains. Jake watched them struggle to keep formation as they navigated around Jupiter's moons. One of the larger ships nearly crashed into an asteroid because it couldn't turn fast enough. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Amy said, her hands flying over her controls. "It's coming through on multiple frequencies." "Put it through," Jake said, still grinning. The screen filled with the image of something that looked like a walking crystal. It had no face that Jake could recognize, but somehow it managed to look very serious and important. When it spoke, its voice was deep and echoing like it was talking from inside a cave. "Primitive beings of the third planet," the crystal creature said. "I am Admiral Zix Thera of the Galactic Confederation First Contact Fleet. You will prepare for the arrival of your new galactic overlords. We come with the power to crush worlds and the wisdom of 1,000 civilizations. Bow before the might of the Confederation, and perhaps your species will be allowed to serve." Jake looked at Amy, who was trying not to smile. He reached for his microphone and opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Well, hello there, Admiral. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Station Liberty. Welcome to our neck of the woods. Those are some really impressive ships you've got there. Real big. Lots of pointy bits. Quick question, though. Do those things actually steer, or do you just sort of aim them in a direction and hope for the best?" There was silence from the alien fleet for several long minutes. Jake could imagine the Crystal Admiral trying to figure out what had just happened. This probably wasn't how first contact usually went for them. Amy was covering her mouth with her hand, trying not to laugh out loud. Jake winked at her and continued talking into his microphone. "I mean, no offense, but I've been watching you. Folks try to navigate around Jupiter for the last hour, and it's been pretty entertaining. That big ship of yours, the really fancy one with all the extra weapons, nearly took out one of the moons back there. You might want to work on your turning radius." Admiral Zix Thera's image flickered back onto the screen. The crystal being somehow managed to look confused and angry at the same time. "You dare mock the Eternal Dominion? That vessel could reduce your entire planet to dust. It carries the combined firepower of 100 lesser fleets." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "I bet it does. Looks like it could probably blow up a lot of stuff, assuming you could actually point it at what you want to hit. But tell me, Admiral, how long does it take that thing to do a U-turn?" "I'm guessing about 3 hours." The alien admiral made a sound like breaking glass. "Your primitive mind cannot comprehend the sophistication of Confederation technology. Our ships are marvels of engineering, perfected over millennia." "Oh, I'm sure they are," Jake said. "Very sophisticated, very complicated. Probably took a lot of smart folks a very long time to build them. But here's the thing that's got me curious. Did anyone ever ask if making them that big was actually a good idea?" Jake stood up and walked closer to the screen. "See, us humans, we've got this saying. Keep it simple, stupid. The best solutions are usually the ones that actually work, not the ones that look the most impressive. Amy was typing furiously at her station. Sir, I'm getting readings from their weapon systems. They're powering up some kind of massive energy cannon. Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien's largest ship was indeed charging up something big. Energy readings were climbing steadily, and it looked like it would take several minutes to reach full power. They're targeting the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter, Amy reported. Looks like they want to show off. Jake sat back down and took another sip of his coffee. Well, this should be interesting. Let's see what all that sophisticated engineering can do. The alien admiral appeared on screen again. Behold the power of the Confederation. Watch as we demonstrate why resistance is futile. Jake watched the energy readings climb higher and higher. The alien weapon was definitely impressive. When it finally fired, it would probably put on quite a show. But he couldn't help noticing how long it was taking to charge up and how the massive ship had to stop moving entirely to aim properly. You know what, Admiral? Jake said into his microphone. I think this is the beginning of a very interesting conversation. Colonel Sam Rodriguez was having lunch when his tactical officer burst into the mess hall of Defense Platform Washington. Lieutenant Chris Baker looked excited and worried at the same time. Sir, you need to see this. The aliens are charging up, some kind of superweapon. Energy readings are off the charts. Sam put down his sandwich and followed Chris to the command center. The Washington was Earth's newest defense platform, positioned between Mars and Jupiter. It was small compared to the alien ships, but it was fast and packed with the latest human weapons technology. Show me what we've got, Sam said, settling into his command chair. Chris pulled up the tactical display. The alien flagship, a massive thing called the Eternal Dominion, was glowing with energy. Power readings climbed higher and higher as they watched. They've been charging for 8 minutes now, Chris reported. Whatever they're planning to shoot, it's going to be big. Sam opened a channel to Earth Defense Station Liberty. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen, still grinning. Sam, you watching this light show? Jake asked. Hard to miss. What do you think they're up to? My guess, they want to scare us with a big boom. Show us how powerful they are. Sam nodded. It made sense. The aliens had tried talking tough, but the humans hadn't been impressed. Now they wanted to back up their words with action. The alien admiral's voice echoed across all frequencies. Primitive humans observed the true power of the Galactic Confederation. We shall demonstrate our might by destroying the large asteroid designated as Target 77 Alpha. Watch and despair. Sam looked at his tactical display. Target 77 Alpha was a big rock about 2 miles wide floating in the asteroid belt. It would make an impressive target if you could actually hit it. 10 minutes and counting, Chris said. That weapon is still charging. Sam watched the energy readings climb. The alien weapon was definitely powerful, but it was taking forever to get ready. The massive ship had stopped moving completely and was slowly rotating to line up its shot. 15 minutes now, Chris announced. They're almost ready to fire. The Eternal Dominion finally unleashed its weapon. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the massive ship, bright enough to hurt the eyes even through the filtered screens. It took 30 seconds for the beam to reach the asteroid. When it hit, the rock exploded in a spectacular display of fire and debris. The alien admiral's voice boomed with pride. Behold the fate of all who oppose the Confederation. Your planet could be next if you do not surrender immediately. Sam looked at his crew. They were all trying not to laugh. Chris raised his hand like he was back in school. Sir, permission to speak freely? Go ahead, Lieutenant. That was really impressive and all, but why did it take so long? I mean 15 minutes to charge up, and then 30 seconds for the beam to actually reach the target. Our railguns could have done that in 2 seconds, Sam grinned. Chris was right. The alien weapon was powerful, but it was slow and clunky. Human weapons were designed to be fast and efficient. You know what, Chris? I think these folks need a proper demonstration. Show them how we do things. Chris's face lit up. Really? Sir? Can we show them the new kinetic system? Light it up. Chris turned to his weapon station with the enthusiasm of a kid with a new toy. The Washington's kinetic rail system was the latest in human weapons technology. Instead of energy beams or missiles, it simply threw solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Targets acquired, Chris announced. 3 asteroids, roughly the same size as their target. Distance, 4,000 kilometers. Fire when ready. The first shot was almost silent. A tungsten rod the size of a baseball left the railgun at a significant fraction of light speed. It reached its target in 1.2 seconds and turned a 2-mile asteroid into a cloud of dust and pebbles. Direct hit. Target destroyed, Chris reported, already lining up the second shot. The second asteroid died just as quickly. So did the third. 3 asteroids, 3 shots, 6 seconds total. Sam opened a channel to the alien fleet. Admiral, this is Colonel Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Platform, Washington. Thanks for the demonstration. Very pretty lights. Here's how we handle asteroids. The alien fleet went completely silent. Sam could imagine them trying to figure out what had just happened. Their massive superweapon had taken 15 minutes to destroy 1 rock. The humans had destroyed 3 rocks in 6 seconds. Jake Morrison's voice came over the comm channel. Nice shooting, Sam. Very economical. Thanks, Jake. We aim to please. Admiral Zixathera's image appeared on screen again. The crystal being looked confused and maybe a little worried. How did you achieve such rapid destruction with such primitive weapons? Our sensors detected no energy buildup, no charging sequence. Colonel Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. Well, Admiral, it's pretty simple. We just throw things really, really hard and really, really fast. Turns out if you make something small enough and shoot it fast enough, it works just as well as your big energy beams. Maybe better. But the power requirements must be enormous. How do you generate such energy without massive charging systems? Sam looked at Chris, who shrugged. We use capacitors and magnetic acceleration. Basic physics. Really? Store the energy ahead of time, release it all at once, no waiting around. The alien admiral was quiet for a long moment. Your weapons technology has got unexpectedly efficient. Thank you, Sam said politely. We try to keep things simple. Big fancy weapons are impressive, but sometimes you just need to get the job done quickly. Lieutenant Chris Baker was studying his sensors. Sir, the alien fleet is moving again. They're changing formation. Sam watched the tactical display. The massive alien ships were slowly repositioning themselves, but they were still struggling with basic maneuvers. One ship nearly collided with another while trying to turn. Admiral, Sam said into his microphone. No offense, but do you folks ever practice fleet maneuvers? Because that looked a little rough. There was another long silence from the alien fleet. Finally, Admiral Zixathera responded, his voice much less confident than before. The Confederation fleet operates according to precise protocols developed over thousands of years. I'm sure it does, Sam replied. But maybe those protocols could use some updating. Just a thought. Jake Morrison's laughter echoed over the comm channel. Sam, I think we've got their attention now. Sam grinned. I think you're right, Jake. I think you're right. Admiral Zixathera was not having a good day. His massive fleet had been embarrassed by primitive humans twice now. The Confederation Council was demanding answers, and he needed to prove that galactic civilization was still superior to these upstart Earthlings. The answer, he decided, was a cultural exchange. Surely the advanced wisdom and knowledge of the galaxy's greatest minds would impress these humans and put them in their proper place. 3 days later, the most impressive delegation in galactic history assembled aboard the Eternal Dominion. High Philosopher Venteris from the Ethereal Collective floated in his meditation sphere, his ancient mind containing the wisdom of 10,000 years. Master Engineer Clank 7, from the machine race Construct, rolled forward on his multiple treads, his metal body housing the technical knowledge of 1,000,000 worlds. General Thokmor of the Gorthani Empire stood in full battle armor, his forearms crossed as he reviewed the 17 sacred scrolls of galactic warfare. These were the greatest minds the galaxy had to offer. They would surely overwhelm the primitive humans with their superior knowledge and culture. Dr. Ben Murphy was running late for the biggest meeting in human history. His truck had broken down on the way to the spaceport, and he had to hitchhike the last 10 miles. Ben was a veterinarian from a small town in Montana. He had volunteered for the cultural exchange because he was curious about alien life forms, and nobody else had wanted to go. Maria Gonzalez was already aboard the shuttle, reviewing her notes. She taught 8th grade science at Lincoln Middle School and had been chosen because she was good at explaining complicated things to children. She figured aliens couldn't be much different from 13-year-olds. Pete Johnson was in the back of the shuttle, tinkering with something that looked like a broken radio. Pete was 73 years old and had run an auto repair shop for 50 years before retiring. He had insisted on coming along because somebody needs to look at their engines. The shuttle docked with the alien flagship, and the 3 humans were escorted to a massive conference room. The ceiling was so high they could barely see it, and the walls were covered with glowing symbols that probably meant something important. High philosopher Ven Terrace began the exchange by floating down from his meditation sphere. His voice was deep and musical, like a choir singing in harmony. Welcome, primitive beings, to the wisdom of the ages. For 10,000 years, the ethereal collective has pondered the great questions of existence. We have discovered the 17 fundamental laws that govern all civilized life in the galaxy. The alien philosopher began reciting the laws in a voice that echoed through the massive chamber. The first law dealt with the proper hierarchy of species. The second law explained the correct way to approach superior beings. The third law outlined the importance of following established protocols. Dr. Murphy listened politely for about 20 minutes, then raised his hand like he was asking a question in school. Excuse me, but what if you just don't follow them? High philosopher Ven Terrace stopped mid-sentence. His glowing form flickered slightly. I beg your pardon? The laws. What if a species just decides not to follow them? I mean, who's going to make them? The alien philosopher was quiet for a long moment. In 10,000 years of existence, nobody had ever asked that question. But they are the fundamental laws. All civilized beings must follow them. Says who? Ben asked. Look, back home we've got laws too. Some of them make sense, like don't steal your neighbor's cow. But some of them are just silly, like the one that says you can't fish on Sundays in certain counties. People ignore the silly ones all the time. High philosopher Ven Terrace made a sound like wind chimes falling over and floated back to his meditation sphere to think about this. Master Engineer Clank 7 rolled forward next. His mechanical voice was precise and efficient. Perhaps the humans will be more impressed by the technical achievements of the construct. Observe our magnificent fusion reactors. The alien engineer led them to the ship's engine room. It was enormous, filled with glowing tubes and spinning machinery that hummed with barely contained power. The fusion reactors were the size of office buildings, surrounded by cooling systems and safety barriers. These reactors provide power for our entire fleet, Clank 7 announced proudly. They are the pinnacle of galactic engineering, refined over millennia. Pete Johnson walked around the massive machines, occasionally tapping on pipes and listening to the sounds they made. After about 10 minutes, he started chuckling. You boys have been doing this the hard way, Pete said, pulling out a worn notebook from his back pocket. I've been tinkering with fusion in my garage for the last few years, just a hobby, you understand. He flipped through pages covered with hand-drawn diagrams and calculations written in pencil. See, your problem is you're making this way too complicated. All these cooling systems and safety barriers. You don't need half of that stuff if you just design the reaction chamber right. Pete showed his notebook to Clank 7. Look here. If you make the magnetic containment field shaped like this instead of round, and you feed the fuel in from 3 points instead of 1, you can get about 3 times the power with half the equipment. Master Engineer Clank 7's optical sensors focused on the crude drawings. His mechanical brain ran calculations at light speed. The human's design was simple, almost primitive, but the math was correct. It would work better than anything this construct had built. How did you discover this? Trial and error mostly, Pete said. Blew up my garage twice, but I figured it out eventually. General Throckmore stepped forward next, his forearms unfolding the sacred scrolls of warfare. His voice was like grinding stone. Perhaps these humans will appreciate the art of galactic warfare. For 5,000 years, the Gorthani Empire has perfected the strategies of conquest. He spread out detailed battle plans showing massive fleets arranged in complex formations. Each scroll contained hundreds of tactical maneuvers, refined over centuries of warfare. These are the proven methods for defeating any enemy fleet, General Throckmore declared. Observe the complexity of the Crimson Dawn formation, designed to overwhelm any opponent through superior positioning. Maria Gonzalez studied the scrolls for a few minutes, then looked up with a puzzled expression. Why don't you just go around them? Go around them? Yeah, like flanking. It's basic strategy. When my 8th graders play capture the flag, they always try to sneak around the sides instead of charging straight at the defenders. Works pretty well. General Throckmore stared at the human teacher. In 5,000 years of military tradition, the Gorthani had never considered simply going around the enemy. Their strategies were based on overwhelming force and complex positioning, not simple maneuvers. But the sacred scrolls contain no mention of this flanking tactic. Maybe that's the problem, Maria said gently. Sometimes the best strategies are the ones nobody writes down because they're too obvious. Admiral Zixathera watched the exchange from his command center. His greatest minds were being outsmarted by a veterinarian, a mechanic, and a middle school teacher. The humans weren't trying to be clever or show off. They were just pointing out simple solutions that the galaxy had somehow missed. This was not going according to plan. Admiral Zixathera was getting desperate. His philosophers had been embarrassed by simple questions. His engineers had been shown up by an old man with a notebook. His generals had been outsmarted by a school teacher. The Confederation Council was demanding results, and his career was on the line. There was only one option left. A formal challenge. 3 contests that would prove once and for all that galactic civilization was superior to these primitive humans. The aliens would choose the contests, set the rules, and use their best equipment. There was no way they could lose. The challenge was announced with great ceremony. Admiral Zixathera stood in the center of the Eternal Dominion's main hall, surrounded by delegates from a dozen different species. Humans of Earth, he declared, the Galactic Confederation hereby challenges your species to formal competition. 3 contests will determine your place in the galactic order. First, a battle simulation using our most advanced war computers. Second, a technological innovation contest. Third, a diplomatic negotiation scenario. Do you accept? Captain Jake Morrison was watching from the Liberty Station. He looked at his crew and shrugged. Why not? Sounds like fun. Amy, tell them we accept. The first contest was held 3 days later aboard the Confederation's flagship. The aliens brought out their most advanced wargame computer, a machine the size of a house that could simulate battles between millions of ships across entire star systems. Captain Ryan Torres arrived on the alien ship wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Ryan was a weekend gamer who worked part-time with the National Guard. He had volunteered because he thought it sounded interesting. The alien war computer was impressive. Holographic displays showed detailed star maps, complete with planets, asteroids, and space stations. The graphics were perfect and the physics were completely realistic. General Throckmore explained the scenario. Human champion, you will command a small outdated fleet of 50 ships. We will command a force of 500 modern vessels with superior weapons and armor. The simulation will begin in 10 minutes. Ryan looked at the setup and grinned. The aliens had given themselves a 10-to-1 advantage and better equipment. This was going to be like fighting the final boss in a video game. Sounds fair, Ryan said. Let's do this. The battle began with the alien fleet advancing in perfect formation, just like their ancient war scrolls described. Ryan took one look at their approach and started laughing. They're all bunched up together, he muttered to himself. This is too easy. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, Ryan split his tiny fleet into individual ships and scattered them in all directions. He used asteroids and space debris as cover, picking off alien vessels one at a time from unexpected angles. The aliens tried to maintain their perfect formations, but Ryan's ships kept attacking from behind, from above, from below, anywhere, except where they were supposed to be. Every time the alien fleet turned to face one group of human ships, another group would attack from a different direction. Within 2 hours, Ryan had destroyed the entire alien fleet without losing a single ship. General Throckmore stared at the display in shock. How did you achieve this impossible victory? Ryan shrugged. I just played it like StarCraft. You know, hit-and-run tactics, use the terrain, keep them guessing. Pretty basic stuff, really. You guys ever play StarCraft? The second contest was the Technological Innovation Challenge. The problem was complex. Create a faster-than-light communication system that could work across the entire galaxy. The aliens assembled their greatest minds for this challenge. Scientists from 17 different species worked together, presenting a solution that involved quantum entanglement across multiple dimensions. Their presentation took 4 hours and filled 3 massive screens with equations. Dr. Nancy White represented humanity. She was a graduate student in theoretical physics at MIT, working on her doctorate while teaching freshman classes to pay for school. Nancy listened to the alien presentation, taking notes in a spiral notebook. When they finished, she raised her hand. That's really impressive, she said. Very complex. But I have a question. Have you tried just making the quantum particles bigger? The alien scientists looked confused. Dr. Vextar from the Crystalline Collective spoke for the group. Larger quantum particles? That is impossible. Quantum effects only work at the subatomic level. Nancy pulled out a napkin and started drawing. See, that's what I thought too until I started wondering why. What if you could make a particle that acts quantum at a macro level? You'd need to adjust the quantum field harmonics, but the math works out. She showed her crude sketch to the alien scientists. It was just a few lines and some basic equations, but the concept was revolutionary. Instead of trying to control tiny particles across vast distances, why not make bigger particles that were easier to work with? Dr. Vexatar ran the calculations through his crystalline matrix brain. The human's design was not only possible, it was elegant in its simplicity. It would work better than anything the Confederation had developed. This design would revolutionize galactic communications, Dr. Vextar admitted. How did you conceive of this approach? Nancy shrugged. I was trying to explain quantum mechanics to my freshman students, and one of them asked why the particles had to be so small. I didn't have a good answer, so I started thinking about it. The third contest was diplomatic negotiation. The scenario involved a complex trade dispute between 17 different species, with competing claims over mining rights in a distant star system. The aliens presented their solution, a 400-page treaty that addressed every possible detail, from environmental protection to workers' rights to cultural preservation. It had taken their best diplomat 6 months to write. Mayor Tom Bradley represented Earth in this challenge. Tom ran a small town in Kansas, population 2,847. He had been mayor for 12 years and was known for his common-sense approach to local problems. Tom read the first page of the alien treaty, then set it aside. This is all very thorough, he said. But can I ask a simple question? What does everybody actually want? The alien diplomats looked confused. Ambassador Silthek from the Aquatic Federation spoke first. We want fair access to the mineral resources, while protecting the indigenous ecosystem. We want jobs for our people and compensation for environmental damage, added Representative Corvin from the Mining Guild. We want our ancestral sites protected from industrial development, said Elder Wispwind from the Nomad clans. Tom nodded thoughtfully. Okay, so you want jobs, money, and protection for important places. That doesn't sound too complicated. How about we just have a barbecue and talk it through? The alien diplomat stared at him. A barbecue? Sure. Good food, relaxed atmosphere. Everyone gets to know each other. You'd be surprised how many problems you can solve over a good meal. Tom pulled out his phone and started making calls. Within 3 hours, he had arranged for Earth's best barbecue chefs to set up on the alien flagship. He convinced each species to bring their favorite foods to share. The barbecue lasted 6 hours. By the end of it, the trade dispute had been resolved with a handshake agreement that satisfied everyone. The mining would happen in designated areas, the profits would be shared fairly, and the sacred sites would be protected. The 400-page treaty was forgotten. Admiral Zixithara watched all 3 contests from his command center. His war computers had been beaten by video game tactics. His greatest scientists had been shown up by a graduate student with a napkin. His master diplomats had been outdone by a small-town mayor with a barbecue grill. The humans weren't cheating. They weren't using superior technology or ancient wisdom. They were just thinking differently. Where the aliens saw complex problems that required complex solutions, the humans saw simple problems that needed simple answers. It was the most humbling experience in Confederation history. Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication channel. "So, Admiral, how'd we do?" Admiral Zixathera looked at his defeated specialists and sighed. "You won, all 3 contests, decisively." "Great, so what happens now?" The alien admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question that would change everything. "Would you be willing to teach us how you do it?" Commander Julia Parker arrived at the alien flagship 3 days after the contest ended. Julia was Earth's official liaison officer, a job that mostly involved translating between military speak and normal human language. She had been chosen because she was good at explaining things and didn't get intimidated easily. The meeting was held in a smaller conference room this time. Admiral Zixathera had learned that humans were uncomfortable in huge, echoing spaces. The alien admiral looked tired and his crystal form wasn't glowing as brightly as before. "Commander Parker," Admiral Zixathera began, "the Galactic Confederation admits defeat. Your species has proven superior in every test. But I must ask, how? How can primitive humans outperform civilizations that have existed for thousands of years?" Julia sat down across from the alien admiral. The room was quiet except for the humming of the ship's systems. She thought about the question for a moment, then smiled. "Admiral, can I tell you something? We're not superior. We're just different." The crystal being flickered with confusion. "But you defeated our greatest minds, our most advanced systems, our finest strategies." "Yeah, we did. But not because we're smarter or better. It's because we think about problems differently." Julia leaned forward in her chair. "You want to know our secret? We don't overthink things. When we see a problem, we look for the simplest solution that works. You folks have spent thousands of years making everything as complicated as possible." Admiral Zixathera was quiet for a long moment. "Explain." "Take your ships," Julia said, gesturing toward the walls around them. "They're huge, impressive, and covered with weapons, but they can barely turn around without hitting something. You made them complicated because you thought complicated meant better." She pulled out her tablet and showed him a picture of a human fighter ship. "Our ships are smaller, faster, and more maneuverable. They're not as impressive looking, but they actually work in combat." "But surely size and firepower are advantages in warfare." Julia shrugged. "Sometimes, but not if you can't hit anything. A big gun that misses is just expensive junk. A small gun that hits its target wins the fight." Admiral Zixathera processed this information. "And your other victories?" "Same thing. Your war strategies were based on 1,000-year-old rules that nobody ever questioned. Your technology was over-engineered to the point where it barely worked. Your diplomacy was so complicated that nobody could understand what anyone else actually wanted." Julia stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the human ships floating nearby. They were tiny compared to the alien vessels, but they moved with grace and purpose. "You know what your real problem is, Admiral? You forgot how to learn. We are a highly advanced civilization. We have universities on 1,000 worlds. But when was the last time any of your people questioned the way things are done? When did someone stand up and say, hey, maybe there's a better way?" The alien admiral was quiet for a very long time. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Many centuries ago, perhaps longer. That's your problem right there. You got so focused on following the rules and maintaining traditions that you stopped thinking about whether the rules made sense." Just then, the door opened, and Zip burst into the room. Zip was the youngest member of the alien delegation, a curious insectoid from the hive mind clusters. He had been listening to everything the human said and was practically vibrating with excitement. "Commander Parker, is it true that humans teach their children to question authority?" Julia laughed. "Oh yeah, human kids question everything. Sometimes It drives us crazy, but it keeps us thinking. And you encourage this behavior? We have to. How else are we going to learn new things? Every generation of humans has to figure out the world for themselves. Sometimes they come up with better ways to do things than we did. Zip's compound eyes gleamed with interest. Could you teach us this questioning method? Admiral Zixthara started to object, but Julia held up her hand. Admiral, maybe that's exactly what your people need. Fresh thinking, new perspectives. The alien admiral looked uncertain. The Confederation has maintained order for millennia by following established protocols. And look where it got you, Julia said gently. You've got ships that can't maneuver, weapons that take forever to fire, and strategies that don't work against anyone who thinks outside the box. She sat back down across from him. We're not asking you to throw away everything you've built, but maybe it's time to try some new approaches. Admiral Zixithera was quiet for another long moment. Then he made a decision that would change galactic history. What would you need to teach us? 3 months later, Pete Johnson was lying on his back under an alien fusion reactor, teaching a group of construct engineers how to rebuild their power systems. The old mechanic was covered in grease and grinning from ear to ear. See, the problem with you boys is you make everything too complicated, Pete was saying as he adjusted a plasma coupling. This whole system here, you don't need it. Just route the power directly through the magnetic containment field. Engineer Clank 7 rolled forward on his treads. But Pete, the safety protocols require 17 different backup systems. And that's why your reactors are the size of buildings, Pete replied. Trust me, I've been blowing things up in my garage for 50 years. I know what works and what doesn't. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Murphy was teaching alien doctors how to treat patients from 17 different species using basic veterinary principles. The thing is, Ben explained to a group of floating gas beings, anatomy is anatomy, no matter what planet you're from. Hearts pump blood, lungs process gas, brains control everything. Once you understand the basics, the rest is just details. Doctor, healing song from the Crystalline Collective pulsed with soft light. But each species requires completely different treatment protocols. Sure, but the principles are the same. Keep the important bits working, fix what's broken, and don't make it worse. I've treated everything from hamsters to horses. Same basic idea. In what used to be a formal conference room, Maria Gonzalez was running a classroom full of alien military strategists through basic human tactics using a game of capture the flag. The key, Maria explained as she watched a Gorthani general try to sneak around a group of ethereal philosophers, is to think like your opponent, but don't assume they think like you. General Throckmore raised one of his 4 hands. But the sacred scrolls provide proven strategies for every situation. The scrolls are a good starting point, Maria agreed. But what happens when you meet someone who never read your scrolls? You need to be able to adapt. Back in his command center, Admiral Zixithera was writing his daily log entry. His crystal form was glowing brightly again, something that hadn't happened in decades. Day 97 of cultural exchange with Earth, he dictated. Human efficiency improvements have increased fleet performance by 400%. Engineering teams have solved 3 major technological problems that have plagued the Confederation for centuries. Our food somehow tastes better after the humans showed our cooks what they call seasoning. He paused, watching his screens show alien ships practicing human-taught maneuvers. They were getting better every day, learning to think instead of just following procedures. Recommend immediate full alliance with Earth. Also recommend sending more personnel to learn what humans call common sense. Apparently, despite the name, it is not as common as one might assume. The Admiral closed his log entry and opened a communication channel to Captain Jake Morrison on the Liberty Station. Jake, my friend, I have been thinking about what you said on our first day of contact. Jake's face appeared on the screen, still wearing that familiar grin. What's that, Admiral? You mentioned people from something called Texas. Should we be concerned? Jake's grin got wider. Oh, you haven't met the Texans yet. Admiral, you're in for a real treat. Admiral Zixithera wasn't sure if that was a promise or a threat. But for the first time in centuries, he was looking forward to finding out. Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, watching as 3 alien species prepared to sign the most important treaty in human history. The massive chamber stretched upward like a cathedral, its walls made of some crystal that caught and reflected light in ways that hurt human eyes. Jake had been here many times over the past 5 years, but today felt different. Today, humanity would finally join the galactic community as equals. The Zalari ambassador floated near the signing table, its crystalline body pulsing with soft blue light. Jake had learned that blue meant happiness for the Zalari, though their emotions were hard to read even after years of study. The creature's face, if it could be called a face, was a smooth surface that reflected the room around it like a mirror. On the other side of the table, the Korthak representative stood perfectly still. The insect-like being was part of a hive mind that controlled thousands of drones across the galaxy. Its 4 arms moved in small, precise gestures as it communicated with its distant queen, through methods humans still did not understand. The third alien, a Vex energy being, flickered between solid and transparent forms. It had no fixed shape, appearing sometimes as a tall humanoid figure, and other times as a floating ball of crackling electricity. Jake found the Vex the most disturbing of the 3 species, mainly because they seemed to enjoy showing off their power by changing forms constantly. "This is a great day for all our peoples," Jake said as he approached the signing table. His voice echoed in the vast chamber, sounding small and weak compared to the strange sounds the aliens made when they spoke. The Zalari's light shifted to a brighter blue. "Indeed, human Morrison. Your species has shown remarkable progress in such a short time. We are pleased to welcome Earth into our alliance." Jake smiled, though he knew the aliens probably could not read human expressions any better than he could read theirs. Behind him, Captain Lisa Hayes and her security team stood at attention near the entrance. Lisa had been unusually quiet during the trip to Centauri Prime, and Jake wondered if she was nervous about this historic moment. The treaty itself was a simple document, at least in human terms. Earth would share its military technology and resources with the 3 alien powers in exchange for protection and access to their advanced science. Humanity had been struggling to defend its growing number of colonies from pirates and hostile alien raiders. This alliance would solve that problem forever. "The terms are acceptable to the Korthak Collective," the insect alien said in its clicking mechanical voice. "Your defensive capabilities will be integrated with our fleet operations within 6 standard months." Jake nodded and picked up the signing stylus. The device was made of the same crystal material as the walls, and it felt warm in his hand. As he signed his name, he thought about how this moment would be remembered in human history books. Children would learn about the day humanity stopped being alone in the galaxy, the Vex being flickered brighter as Jake finished signing. "The energy signatures are now aligned," it said in a voice that sounded like static electricity. "The bond between our species is sealed." One by one, the alien representatives added their own signatures to the treaty. The Zalari pressed its hand against the crystal surface, leaving a glowing handprint. The Korthak used a small device that printed complex symbols in a language that looked like geometric patterns. The Vex simply touched the document, and its signature appeared in crackling letters of pure energy. "It is done," Jake said, raising the signed treaty above his head. The few human observers in the chamber applauded, their clapping echoing strangely in the alien architecture. But Captain Lisa Hayes was not clapping. She stood near the back of the chamber, her hand resting on her sidearm in a way that looked casual but was actually a ready position. Her eyes moved constantly, watching the aliens and their bodyguards. Something about their behavior patterns was bothering her, though she could not put her finger on what it was. During her years of security training, Lisa had studied every available piece of information about these 3 species. She knew their customs, their body language, and their communication methods as well as any human could. But today, something felt wrong. The Zalari's light patterns were slightly off. Instead of the smooth, flowing changes that indicated genuine emotion, the blue glow flickered in sharp, controlled pulses. It reminded Lisa of someone trying too hard to appear happy when they were actually planning something unpleasant. The Korthak drone's movements were also strange. Normally, the hive-minded creatures moved with perfect efficiency, never making unnecessary gestures. But this one kept making small adjustments to its position, as if it was receiving conflicting instructions from its queen. Most disturbing was the Vex being's behavior. The energy creature usually maintained a consistent form during important ceremonies, but today it could not seem to settle on a single shape. The constant shifting made Lisa think of someone who was nervous or excited about something they were hiding. As the ceremony continued with speeches and formal presentations, Lisa noticed something else that made her uneasy. The alien security teams were positioned differently than usual. Instead of the protective formations they normally used, they had spread out around the chamber in what looked suspiciously like attack positions. She activated her communication device and sent a coded message to her team leader on the human ship in orbit. Pattern 7 was all she transmitted. It was a simple code that meant maintain alert status but take no action. If her suspicions were wrong, no harm would be done. If she was right, her people would be ready. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison continued his diplomatic duties, unaware of his security chief's concerns. He exchanged gifts with the alien ambassadors and posed for historical recordings that would be broadcast across human space. In his mind, this was the beginning of a golden age for humanity. Back on Earth, Admiral Ben Clark was already implementing the first phases of the new alliance. Human engineers were working alongside alien technicians to upgrade Earth's defense systems with advanced alien technology. The process was moving faster than anyone had expected, which Ben took as a sign of how eager their new allies were to begin cooperation. Ben's daughter, Dr. Amy Clark, was equally excited about the opportunities the alliance would bring. Her research team had been given access to alien agricultural technology that could revolutionize farming on human colony worlds. The aliens claimed their methods could triple crop yields while using half the water and fertilizer of traditional human farming. But as Jake Morrison shook hands with the alien ambassadors and smiled for the cameras, none of the humans in the chamber knew that they had just signed their species' death warrant. The Treaty of Galactic Unity was not the beginning of a partnership between equals. It was the final step in a plan that had been decades in the making. The three alien species had been watching humanity's rapid expansion across the galaxy with growing alarm. Humans reproduced quickly, adapted to new environments with disturbing ease, and showed a talent for warfare that reminded the aliens of their own dark histories. Left unchecked, humanity would become a threat that could challenge the established galactic order. The alliance was designed to solve the human problem permanently. By gaining access to human military installations and colony worlds, the aliens would be able to strike quickly and completely when the time came. The agricultural technology they were sharing was the first weapon in a war that humans did not even know had begun. As the ceremony ended and the various delegations prepared to return to their ships, Captain Lisa Hayes made a decision that would save her species. She quietly activated a hidden recording device and began documenting everything she could about the aliens' behavior and positioning. She did not know what they were planning, but her instincts told her that humanity had just made a terrible mistake. The only question was whether anyone would listen to her warnings before it was too late. 6 months after the signing ceremony, Colony Administrator Kate Wells stood in the middle of what used to be New Boston's main agricultural district. The fields that had once promised to feed 10,000 colonists were now brown and lifeless. The alien-enhanced crops had grown wonderfully for the first 4 months, producing yields that amazed even the most experienced farmers. Then, overnight, everything died. Kate knelt down and picked up a handful of the dead soil. It crumbled in, her fingers like ash. The alien agricultural specialist had assured her that their enhancement technology was completely safe for human use. They had provided detailed scientific reports and even demonstration videos showing similar crops thriving on other worlds. "Ma'am, we've got the test results back from the lab," said her assistant Mark Johnson as he approached across the barren field. His face was grim, and Kate knew the news would not be good. "Tell me," she said, standing up and brushing the dead soil from her hands. "The enhancement nanomachines are still active in the soil, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do anymore. Instead of helping plants grow, they're actively destroying anything we try to plant. The lab says it looks like they received some kind of signal that changed their programming. Kate felt a cold knot form in her stomach. A signal from where? That's the problem. We can't tell. The nanomachines don't have any communication equipment that our instruments can detect. But something definitely told them to switch from helping to harming. 300 light-years away, Commander Ryan Torres was having his own problems with their alien allies. His patrol ship, the Defender, had responded to 5 distress calls in the past 2 weeks. Each time, human cargo vessels reported attacks by unknown raiders who seemed to know exactly where to find them and how to disable their defenses. Ryan stood on the bridge of his ship, studying the debris field that was all that remained of the cargo vessel Prosperity. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Susan Baker, was running scans of the wreckage. "Commander, you need to see this," Susan said, her voice tight with concern. "The attack patterns match the ones we saw at the other 4 sites. But there's something else. The weapon signatures are familiar." "Familiar how?" Ryan asked, moving to look at her display screen. "These energy readings match the weapons used by Korthak attack drones. And these burn marks here," she pointed to a section of twisted metal. "They're consistent with Solari crystal beam weapons." Ryan stared at the evidence for a long moment. "Are you telling me our allies are attacking human ships?" "I'm telling you that whoever destroyed this ship was using Alliance military technology. Either our allies are attacking us directly, or someone else has gotten hold of their weapons." "Both options are bad," Ryan muttered. He activated the ship's communication system. "Helm, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. I think Admiral Clark needs to see this data personally." Back on Earth, Dr. Amy Clark was making her own disturbing discoveries. The research laboratory she shared with alien scientists had been a marvel of cooperation for months. Human and alien researchers worked side by side, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies that would benefit all their species. But today, Amy was alone in the lab. The alien researchers had left suddenly 3 days ago, claiming they had been called back to their homeworlds for urgent consultations. They had promised to return soon, but something about their departure felt wrong to Amy. She was examining samples of the agricultural nanomachines when she noticed something that made her blood freeze. Under high magnification, the tiny machines looked different than they had when the project began. There were additional components that had not been in the original designs. Amy ran the samples through every analysis tool in the lab. The results were terrifying. The nanomachines contained dormant programs that could be activated by remote signal. When activated, they would not only destroy crops, but also release chemicals that would make the soil toxic to human life for decades. "This isn't agricultural enhancement," she whispered to herself. "This is a weapon." She tried to contact her father, Admiral Ben Clark, but his communication codes were not working. According to the military database, he was on a routine inspection tour of joint defense installations with alien technical advisors. But Amy could not reach him on any of his usual channels. Meanwhile, on a remote asteroid base that officially did not exist, Admiral Ben Clark was very much alive but far from free. He sat in a cell that was comfortable by prison standards but was definitely a prison. His captors were Vex energy beings, who flickered in and out of visibility as they spoke to him. "Your species learns too quickly," one of the Vex said, its voice crackling like electricity. "We had hoped to have more time before implementation, but your people are becoming suspicious." Ben kept his face calm, though inside he was calculating how long humanity had before whatever the aliens were planning came to fruition. "Suspicious of what?" "We signed a treaty. We're allies." The Vex being laughed, a sound like static on a radio. "Allies? Your species is a plague that spreads across the galaxy, consuming resources and multiplying without control. The treaty was simply a way to position our forces for the final solution." "Final solution?" Ben asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "Complete elimination of the human species. Your colonies will be sterilized, your homeworld rendered uninhabitable, and your people will become a cautionary tale that other species will remember when they consider expanding too rapidly." Back on New Boston, Kate Wells was coordinating the evacuation of her colonists when the attacks began. Ships appeared in orbit without warning, their hulls bearing the energy signatures of Alliance vessels. But instead of offering help with the agricultural crisis, they began bombing the colony's infrastructure. Kate ran for the emergency command center as explosions rocked the settlement around her. "This is New Boston Colony to any Earth forces in the area," she broadcast on all emergency frequencies. "We are under attack by ships claiming to be Alliance vessels. Repeat, the Alliance is attacking human colonies." Commander Ryan Torres received Kate's distress call just as his ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth. The message confirmed his worst fears about the alien attacks on human shipping. This was not a series of isolated incidents. This was the beginning of a coordinated war against humanity. "Communications, get me Earth Defense Command immediately," he ordered. "Tell them we have a code black situation. The Alliance has turned hostile." On Earth, the pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. Dr. Amy Clark had managed to contact other human research facilities and discovered that alien technical advisors had mysteriously departed from installations across human space. The nanomachine weapons were just one part of a larger plan that included compromised defense systems and mapped human military capabilities. Amy tried again to reach her father, not knowing that he was being held prisoner by the very aliens she had been working with for months. All she knew was that the aliens had been lying to humanity from the beginning, and now they were making their move. Colonel Lisa Hayes, recently promoted after her accurate assessment of alien behavior during the treaty signing, was coordinating Earth's response to the crisis. Her security teams had been quietly monitoring alien activities for months, and now their paranoid preparations were humanity's only hope. "Ma'am, we're getting reports of attacks on 17 colonies," her aide reported. "The aliens are using our own defense grids against us in some cases." Lisa nodded grimly. She had suspected something like this might happen, but she had hoped to be wrong. "Activate Protocol Paranoia," she ordered. "Assume all alien-supplied technology is compromised, and switch to backup systems immediately." "Protocol Paranoia, ma'am?" "It's a contingency plan we developed in case our new allies turned out not to be allies at all. Apparently, we're not as paranoid as we should have been. As reports of attacks poured in from across human space, it became clear that the three alien species had been planning this assault for months, possibly years. The Alliance had been a deception designed to give them access to human colonies and military installations. But what the aliens did not know was that some humans had never fully trusted them. In secret facilities hidden throughout human space, weapons and ships had been built using purely human technology. Paranoid military planners had insisted on maintaining independent defense capabilities, just in case their new friends turned out to be enemies. The betrayal was complete, but humanity's response was about to begin. The aliens had awakened something they did not understand and could not control. They had mistaken human cooperation for weakness and human trust for stupidity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The rescue team found Admiral Ben Clark 3 days after the attacks began. He was barely conscious when Commander Ryan Torres pulled him from the alien prison facility on asteroid K-47, a secret base that did not appear on any official charts. Ben's uniform was torn and his face was bruised, but his eyes burned with anger and determination. "How long was I out?" Ben asked as the medical team checked him over on the shuttle back to Earth. 17 days, sir," Ryan replied. "The aliens grabbed you during what they told us was a routine inspection. We only found you because Dr. Amy Clark tracked the energy signatures from their transport ships." Ben sat up despite the medics' protests. 17 days. They've had 17 days to position their forces while we thought you were just touring facilities. He grabbed Ryan's arm. "How bad is it?" Ryan's expression told him everything. "Bad, sir. They've hit 43 colonies so far. The nanomachine. Weapons are spreading to planets that never even used the alien agricultural technology. And we've confirmed that all three alien species are working together. This isn't just the actions of one rogue faction. Back on Earth, the Emergency Council was meeting in the deep underground bunkers that had been built during humanity's early space expansion. Colonel Lisa Hayes stood before a room full of Earth's military and political leaders, her presentation screen showing the scope of the alien betrayal. The situation is worse than we initially thought, Lisa began. The aliens didn't just plan to attack our military forces, they planned to wipe out our entire species. She clicked to the next slide, which showed a map of human space with red zones spreading like an infection. The agricultural nanomachines were Phase 1. They're designed to make our colony worlds uninhabitable within weeks. Phase 2 appears to be atmospheric processors that will poison the air on any planet with a human population. We've found evidence that they've been secretly installing these devices on our worlds for months. President Ellen Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. How many worlds are we talking about, Colonel? All of them, ma'am. Every human colony, every research station, every military base. They even planted devices on Earth itself. If they activate all the atmospheric processors at once, humanity will be extinct within days. The room fell silent. The scale of the betrayal was almost impossible to comprehend. For years, humanity had believed they were building a partnership with advanced alien civilizations. Instead, they had been helping their enemies prepare for genocide. Dr. Amy Clark entered the briefing room carrying a case full of data storage devices. Her father, Admiral Ben Clark, was right behind her despite the medical team's orders to rest. Amy looked exhausted but determined as she approached the presentation screen. I've been analyzing the alien technology for the past 72 hours, Amy said. The good news is that their overconfidence gave us an opportunity. The bioweapons they designed to kill humans are incredibly sophisticated, but they made them too specific. What does that mean? President Rodriguez asked. Amy activated her own presentation. It means we can turn their weapons against them. The same biological agents that would kill humans can be modified to affect the aliens who created them. Their immune systems have never encountered anything like this, because they designed it specifically for us. Admiral Ben Clark stepped forward. There's more. While I was their prisoner, I learned about their military deployment. They've positioned their fleets to hit us from 3 directions, but they're using the same tactical doctrines they've used for centuries. They think we'll fight like the other species they've conquered. Colonel Lisa Hayes smiled grimly. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Show them Protocol Exodus, Admiral. Ben activated a new display that showed hidden facilities throughout human space. We never fully trusted our new allies, he said. Some of us remembered that Earth's history is full of civilizations that were destroyed by enemies who pretended to be friends. So we built backup systems. The display showed weapons platforms, shipyards, and research facilities that had been constructed in secret using purely human technology. While humanity had been publicly cooperating with the aliens, a shadow military-industrial complex had been preparing for the possibility of betrayal. These facilities are completely independent of alien technology, Ben continued. They're powered by human fusion reactors, built with human materials, and controlled by human artificial intelligence systems that the aliens know nothing about. Captain Ryan Torres, who had been studying navigation charts, looked up from his tablet. Sir, if we activate all these facilities at once, we'll have more military capability than we've ever publicly admitted to having. That was the point, Lisa said. The aliens think they're fighting the human military they've observed for the past 5 years. They have no idea about our real capabilities. On the colony world of New Boston, Administrator Kate Wells was coordinating the evacuation of her people when she received an encrypted message from Earth. The message contained activation codes for defense systems she had never known existed. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the New Boston system came online, revealing themselves for the first time. My God, Kate whispered, as her displays showed the true extent of humanity's secret preparations. We've been ready for this all along. The alien fleets approaching human space were confident in their superiority. The Zalari had conquered 12 species over the past 1,000 years. The Korthak Collective had absorbed the military technology of dozens of civilizations. The Vex Consortium had reduced entire star systems to energy for their consumption, but none of them had ever fought humans before. They had studied human military exercises and analyzed human weapons technology, but they had only seen what humanity wanted them to see. The real human military had been hidden in the shadows, built by people who remembered that the universe was a dangerous place where trust was a luxury few species could afford. Dr. Amy Clark was working around the clock to weaponize the alien bioweapons against their creators. Her laboratory had become a factory for death, producing modified viruses and nanomachines that would target alien biology with the same precision the original weapons had been designed to target humans. The beautiful thing about their plan, Amy told her research team, is that they made it so specific to human biology that it's like a key that only fits one lock. But keys can be recut. Admiral Ben Clark was coordinating with military commanders across human space, activating facilities that had been dormant for years. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed their true nature as military escorts. Research stations became weapons platforms. Mining colonies activated hidden missile silos. The aliens wanted to fight a war of extermination. Ben told his staff, "They're going to get one, but they picked the wrong species to try to wipe out." Colonel Lisa Hayes was overseeing the most important part of the operation, the activation of humanity's artificial intelligence network. The AI systems had been designed to coordinate human military responses in exactly this kind of scenario. They had been learning and preparing for years, analyzing every piece of alien technology and tactical doctrine they could access. The AIs have been running wargame simulations for the past 3 years, Lisa reported to the Emergency Council. They've identified the optimal targets in alien space and calculated the resources needed to permanently disable each alien civilization's ability to wage war. President Rodriguez looked around the room at her advisors. "Are we really going to do this? Are we going to try to destroy 3 entire civilizations?" Admiral Ben Clark answered without hesitation. "Ma'am, they already tried to destroy us. The only question now is whether we let them finish the job, or whether we make sure they can never threaten anyone again." The decision was made. Humanity would not just defend itself against the alien betrayal. They would end the threat permanently. The species that had trusted too easily and been betrayed would become something their enemies had never expected. Apex predators with a grudge and the technology to do something about it. As the secret human fleets began moving toward their targets and the hidden weapons platforms powered up across human space, one message was broadcast on all frequencies to the alien civilizations that had declared war on humanity. You wanted to see what humans do when we're threatened with extinction. You're about to find out. The Zalari Admiral Zexthara floated in the command chamber of her flagship, watching the tactical displays with growing confusion. Her crystal body pulsed with amber light, indicating concern. The human colonies should have been silent by now, their populations dead from the nanomachine plague and atmospheric processors. Instead, the humans were fighting back with weapons and ships that did not appear in any intelligence reports. "Commander," she said to her tactical officer, "explain to me how the humans have defense platforms and systems where our reconnaissance showed no military installations." The subordinate Zalari's light flickered nervously. "Admiral, we are detecting energy signatures that match no known human technology. These weapons appear to use some form of kinetic acceleration that creates impacts equivalent to antimatter explosions." Zexthara's light shifted to angry red. "Impossible. Human weapons technology is centuries behind ours. We have studied their capabilities for years." What the Zalari Admiral did not know was that humanity had been lying about their capabilities for those same years. The weapons now firing on her ship